Okay, now thanks everyone for joining. Then let's start. Uh, uh, Most of you all are joining for multiple reasons. Okay, but I just wanted to, since this is a demo class where I will let you all know what this training is all about and what are the products we are covering and to what level and to what depth and why are we even uh, learning this product. Okay, so but most of all have some kind of IT knowledge. Okay, so from what I heard from my team, so I think most of the, who all are inquiring about the course, they do have a Microsoft Intune experience. Some don't have Intune experience at all, but they are working in some other domains in the IT, and some are actually working in SCCM and they want to know more about Intune, and some are working in packaging and they want to get into the proper system administration with SCCM and Intune because they find jobs related to Intune and Microsoft 365 security tools throughout the industry, right? So you almost see every service-based company and every company is now moving towards the cloud-based native deployment. And then that's the reason why you always find things important and then people approach for training for modern technologies. Okay. But most of the things that I am covering today, I'm just telling you the first important basic thing, what I'll be covering. Okay. But before I even talk about what I'll be covering, uh, let's even understand how Microsoft has been advertising their own security products. Okay. And how actually companies purchase those products. Okay. It's not about learning some tool and then just going into a tool and learning and delivering something, right? But why is there a shift in an industry and why is there a shift in many companies where suddenly your decision makers, your CISOs, your security team and your end user computing projects team suddenly decide to go away from the existing on-premise tools, right? There must be a reason. So we'll all discuss that throughout the course, but what we always know Office 365 for a long time, right? What is Office 365? Okay, so back in the days, we know Exchange on-premise, which was deployed on-premise. And then around 2010 and 2011, Microsoft announced a product called as Office 365. So what was Office? I want some confirmation in a message that you all can see my screen. Anyone can just put a drop chat. Thanks. Okay. So what you can actually see it was usually on Office 365, which was a cloud-based Exchange online service, which was nothing but just an Exchange server deployed in the cloud. Okay. So what it actually brought to the industry was a cloud-based identity management, which was back then called as Azure AD. What it means is every user who you create Office 365, because back in the days, if you really want to create an user ID, whoever joined the organization, they had to be created in an on-premise Active Directory. Yeah, in most cases, even today. Okay, so but a user was able to create in an Active Directory, and then that used to be synced to an Exchange on-premise, and that's how you actually create mailboxes. Okay, but in Office 365, since everything is the cloud, someone should actually tell that there is an user for an Office 365. Like if you joined an organization, you need to create an user ID. Okay, so if you actually created in an on-premise ID, that might really not be sufficient, and hence Microsoft came up with something called as an Azure AD. So Azure AD is not an Active Directory in the cloud. It was purely designed as an identity and access management solution. Okay, it is just provides identities and some access to the resources like Office 365 here in this case. Okay, so what actually exactly means is if you start creating an user IDs, started creating user IDs here in your Active Directory, in your on-premise Active Directory server, you would probably sync that user in the cloud, and this user here will be licensed for Office 365. The moment you actually license for an Office 365, the Office 365 service will start creating respective mailboxes, your Skype users, your Teams users, and then everything related to your Office 365 that is licensed, okay? Your Yammer account, your OneDrive account, everything, right? So your entire Office 365 earlier was dependent on, even now, and for all the resources in the cloud was purely Azure AD. An identity should be present in Azure AD, which is your user ID, and your user ID should always be licensed for accessing any cloud-based resources in Microsoft 365, even today and forever. Okay, nothing has changed for last 14 years. Okay, and that is one of the main core product of Microsoft, which is Office 365. And this Office 365 actually include many other products. Okay, so your Teams, your Exchange Online, your Skype, your Yammer account, which is your Viva Goals, and then there's so many bookings.com, Outlook meeting bookings, and then there's so many other services, and these entire services are called as a collaboration and messaging tools from Microsoft. Okay, that is their advertising word, okay, messaging and collaboration, because it all deals with talking and messaging and collaborating along with your teams. Okay. What actually happened? There are so many other products along with that integrated. So then came something called as Enterprise Mobility and Security, was called as EMS. And Enterprise Mobility and Security again focused on multiple different products. Now, as you can see, you have an Office 365, and at the same time, we also need to protect the data in the Office 365, like email protection, spam protection, right? Email forwarding, all these, okay? So incoming email, junk emails, and then you store something in your OneDrive. Your OneDrive data also needs to be protected. Your OneDrive data in the laptop should be protected. Your OneDrive data while transferring data to external organizations or internal organizations, there should be some kind of sensitive labeling to be done on those documents, right? Technically, every organization comes up with some tenant. Okay, that tenant has almost a lot of terabytes of data based on the number of users in your organization. So this entire Office 365 is where your services are there. And then there is another product called as Defender for Office 365, which protects entire Office 365 data. Okay, so be it in the SharePoint, your OneDrive, Outlook, Teams, whatever data you do, okay, it is protected. Okay, your documents, your sensitive labeling. Okay, say for example, if you want to start adding labels to your data, okay, say for example, you create a Word document and label it as a sensitive label saying confidential, you can actually create a policy in your Office 365 such that that purview, that label is not transferred to another account outside of your domain. Like if you're working in Wipro.com, if you create a confidential document, you cannot really share it to your vendors or third party. Okay, all these are policies that are created in some kind of a tool, and that tool is called as Microsoft Purview. Okay, Microsoft Purview is one huge, massive product within the Microsoft ecosystem. Okay, so the EMS basically includes two products. It includes Intune, okay, and then AIP, Azure Information Protection, that is now the name change into multiple other things, but still Azure, this is part of now Purview, okay, and then it involves Entra ID Plan P2, okay, and then Defender for Cloud Applications, or CA, Defender for Cloud Apps. Okay, so these are all different products I'm saying. Okay, so the reason why I was actually started off with telling all of these products was the way Microsoft organized entire products is M365. Okay, you buy actually M365 E3 or E5 license. Okay. What you actually get is, you actually get Office 365. Okay. And you get Intune, but Intune as a separate or a license, and you get Defender suite. Okay. And there are multiple Defenders. Okay. But what I was talking about here is, say, for example, Defender is a product, it only provides security to your Office data that is there in your Office 365 tenant. And now you started managing devices. You now have devices with Android, iOS, and mainly Windows operating system. Nowadays, even Linux and Mac OSs have become popular. But 80% of all the devices in any organization, even today, are Windows. But these Windows are now connected to your Azure AD account again, and they're now started to managed with another cloud-based product called as Intune. Okay, so these Intune are device managed, and these devices are now joined to Azure AD. Say, for example, you have any data here, right? So it also needs to be protected. While the data in the cloud is protected with Office 365 products, but data in the devices also needs to be protected with something called as the DLP policies. And for pushing DLP policies and deploying DLP policies, your devices need to either be enrolled to Intune or at least Defender for Endpoint for certain functions to work. Okay, so the main function when you actually look at the security aspects of any devices, it is protecting devices and data on the managed devices. Okay, these are all managed devices, and we're talking about the managed devices in the cloud, which I say endpoint management. So the reason why, again, as I was telling, there are multiple, what actually do organizations do is organizations just purchase E3 and E5. And within the E3 and E5, they have Office 365, which most of the companies already use it. And Intune is one of the main, again, product component. And then Defender for Endpoint. Defender for Endpoint, we say MDE, Defender for Cloud Apps, and Defender for Office 365, and Defender for Identity. Okay, so these are the four major products today everyone are talking about, and everyone needs experiences on, and everyone needs jobs. Okay, based on those technologies. Okay, these are all a bunch. Batched. Okay, they're like a job batch of people. Okay, so an organization is looking for. Okay, so they really can't find people who have expertise in Intune, who have expertise in Defender for Endpoint, some kind of knowledge on Defender for Identity and Defender for CA. Okay, we find people always, and whenever I interview, we find people who are only either expertise in Intune and again little administration. Okay, that's all, not much. And Defender for Endpoint, it's either completely no or little bit basics. Or we'll always find people with Defender for Endpoint, but not with Intune. Okay, they are a security core, security operations team. Okay, but that is not how jobs will be in the future, right? It's a mixture of multiple things. And this M365, you also get Windows 11 Enterprise license. So now you actually understand you have an Office license, you have a Windows operating system license, you have a license with Entra ID, okay, and you have a device managed tool like Intune, and you have a security tool like Defender. Okay, all that with a single E3 and E5 license, which most of the enterprise and big companies purchase it. Okay, and not all of those products are actually being used by the organization. Half of them are not using Intune. They are not using Defender. Instead, they're using CrowdStrike. They're using Sentinel-1. They're using Sophos. There are so many other products. They were using for a long time. Their contracts will always eventually get expired. Instead of Intune, they're using SCCM for Windows, and they might be using other products for mobile device management like VMware or this one. Okay, all other different products they're actually using. But if you actually look at the trend in last 3 years, 2 years, and you go to any company, and every customer is now trying to migrate their first, why Intune? Okay, they're trying to move SCCM devices to Intune. I'm not saying all, I'm not saying everyone, but at least to an extent where co-management is required. Secondly, they're migrating their any old MDM devices. MDM tools like VMware Workspace ONE, WS1, Mobile Iron, which is a part of Ivanti now, SOTI, IBM Mark 360. Okay, so there's so many, there are around 40, 50 product MDM solutions. And since they've already paid and they're already using M365 license, it's easier for them without renewing the license, without purchasing the license, move to Intune. Okay, so these are the bunch of, these are the majority cases where you'll always find projects where everyone wants to move to Intune. Same thing goes with the Defender for Endpoint. People are using CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, okay, they're using Symantec, McAfee, okay, Carbon, VMware Carbon, all of these. Someday, eventually, will actually they or realize Defender for Endpoint, anyway they are paying, okay, why you need another product? Okay, the best part of Defender is you don't need a client. The client is automatically there on your Windows operating system. You just need to activate it. Okay, same thing goes with Intune, right? So you don't need any kind of clients at all because it's based on MDM. And this is based on a Sense agent that's already inbuilt with an organization. So we just need to activate it. Okay, so nothing more, nothing important, nothing complexity. To onboard any devices to Defender for Endpoint, it is highly recommended to onboard using Intune. And that's the reason why Intune plays an important role to simply silently onboard all of your Windows devices to Defender for Endpoint. And almost all the policies for Defender Endpoint, you can actually push it from Intune as well. So that is the reason why the combination of Intune and Defender plays an important role when someone really finds, if you actually Google and find out any jobs, they always have 4 things mentioned: Intune, Defender for Endpoint, and then autopilot. What else? Okay, so these are all related to Windows. Okay, so if at all someone reads SCCM knowledge, it's good. Okay, and then yeah, all kinds of entra ID. Entra ID is nothing but your Azure AD. Very important. That is the basics. If you don't know entra ID, you'll not learn anything related to M365. So I think I spend a lot of time in teaching everyone about Entra ID and whatever is available within the Entra ID, whatever is needed for us in Entra ID. Okay, so and then Entra ID conditional access is a Entra ID conditional access is a part of Entra ID. It's not part of Intune, but in most Intune interviews, completely Entra ID conditional access is covered. And then they immediately go and talk about the security Defender for Endpoint. And they even talk about another M365 security, another M365, any other M365 products as a plus if you have, like, Defender for Identity, if you understand privileged identity management, if you understand Defender for Cloud Apps, it's always a plus, okay? But that is how everyone's career in future will look like and should be. If anyone wants to groom their careers and be like, job safe and see what is it in the future, I think these are all the things that you guys need to study. If someone is in this field, okay, someone is completely out of this field, they might not be encouraged to do all of these. But people who are in application packaging, SCCM, Intune, okay, it is highly recommended for them to start reading a lot about M365 products, okay? So the reason again, let me just share my screen. Okay. So I think let's just give the reason again why someone is talking about Intune Defender for so much. Okay, we know, like, we know from the industry, right? What is it? If you really start looking at, do some research. Okay, yeah, this is the old tool, but that's fine. Okay, so it still applies. Back in around somewhere, Intune and configuration was there, right? If you look at this, 2024. Okay, and then this was 2025, and Intune started to move to Azure, and then Autopilot came in, MAM came in. MAM is again Intune MAM, and then we looked at the legacy, and then re co-management, and then everything started off with we shipped Intune Azure-based Intune for education, and then EMS bundled the license along with the EMS and MAM 365, and then later we gave the licenses free for those users who already were using SCCM so that they can leverage the co-management part of it. Okay. And almost most of them comes with a heavily discounted license, and then features are all, everything was free. Okay. So this was the number of users that were used. Okay. And as of today, like, according to Microsoft, we will look at their website, there are nearly 9.5 lakh Intune tenants, out of which there are at least 7 lakhs plus Intune customers, small, medium business, enterprise, everyone. Okay. This is a Gartner report that is to 2022. 2024, again, it's the same thing. Okay. Microsoft is still the leader of the unified endpoint management tools. Why Gartner report is important? Because it's not coming from Microsoft. It's an expert's report. Every company looks at the Gartner report before purchasing devices. Okay, so in this, if you again do a research on mobile device management and this unified endpoint management, I'll show that when I'm sharing my browser. But for last 2014, 16, 18, all of these, Intune was not even in the picture. Okay, so Microsoft took that seriously, and then within last 4 years, Microsoft is the leader, and you see the number of products here. Earlier there were 20. The number of products are even not even making it to this list. Okay, you don't find Citrix. Citrix is vanished. Citrix Zen app, Zen Mobile was the leader, but it's not there in the picture. There is no Sorty. There is only IBM. There's only Mobile Iron. Okay, only 3. Okay, and eventually, I'm sure every customer that you guys are will eventually work will be moving from any of other products to Microsoft Intune, and that is the same. Okay, that is the same case even with the Defender for Endpoint. So I'll show the report of Defender for Endpoint in last 4 years, it's still the leader. There's no competition. The only competition, close competition for Defender for Endpoint is CrowdStrike, is Sentinel-1, okay? And that's all, okay? So far, all this demand, Carbon Black, and all this will come later, okay? All in the second category. As of today, it's still just 2 or 3 products, and Defender is the leader, along with CrowdStrike and Sentinel-1 and Bitdefender, I think so. Okay. So, but in this course, okay, let me talk about, because the problem with all these demo classes, which I am asked to take, is the limited time where I need to tell so many things. Okay. So as I was saying, okay, if you look at why Defender for Endpoint is so important. Okay. So let's say Gartner Defender, why all this? Gartner report, CrowdStrike. Just click on the images. Just click on any image. Okay. I'm not sure if you get this. Hope you guys can see. Okay. So this, if you, as you can see, there's so many products in this Gartner report, right? This is in 2022. Okay. So you see, Microsoft still the leader. Second comes the CrowdStrike. Then comes the Sentinel one. Then comes the Cyberease and so forth. Okay. Imagine learning a product like Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Intune, where every customer wants to go there. Okay, of course, you need to be in the leader. Of course, there are people with already Intune experience. There are people with security experience, but there is a unique combination of Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Cloud, or there's another product called Defender for Cloud where you manage servers and security of the servers. Okay, that can be your future. Okay, so these are the jobs are unlimited. That's all I can say. Okay? So Intune, of course, if you look at I mean, if you can look at not just the Gartner report, the Forrester Wave report. Okay, okay, there's no clarity as well. Okay, so any report anywhere, you'll always see, of course, Microsoft product leading the way. The reason, okay, I'm not sure how much of this, if you can go and type in Google saying that zero trust deployment plan with Microsoft, okay, and it is a clickable deployment plan. Okay, this is, if you want, I can share the link. So you can just go ak.ms zero trust. Okay, this one, zero trust deployment with M365. If you look at just, you'll get this clickable PDF. Okay, and then you can actually go through. I'll just zoom in. Okay, the reason, okay, we have to look at a higher picture as to why we need to learn Intune, why we need to learn Defender for Point, because these two products will make up almost 50 to 60% of this entire zero trust deployment plan. Go to Tech Mahindra website. Tech Mahindra CIO claims, for example, we are in the mission of zero trust deployment and passwordless strategy in 2024, or we will by end of 2025, the mission will be accomplished. Something they'll go and advertise. They'll not even know what is it. Okay, but everyone's mission and everyone's agenda for their organization is to go to the zero trust deployment plan. Okay, no matter what product you used, but if you use most of the Microsoft product, you will actually save something, save money and save limited administration experience. You can achieve that zero deployment goal, right? Passwordless is another goal, okay, which means that there's no password. You can always log into any of the system without any password. They eventually no password at all. Okay. My organization is already there. Okay. If I do the last 4 years, 2.5 years, there is no passwords. I don't know my password, but I log into every system without any password, with MFAs, with security keys, or with my phone, pass keys. Okay. All these are completely new. Okay. I mean, I would really challenge, okay, what you learn will be completely new, and I intend to only talk about new things. Okay. So I will really not really talk about any of these old things. People like it or don't like it, or people really want that as an agenda for their job. It's not real, because, for example, I will definitely not talk about Pixie. I will not talk about OS deployment. I will not talk about task sequences or any of that in my training. Okay. I will not even talk about traditional packaging. Okay, why packaging? Now, why we need packages? Because Microsoft is already packaging almost top 6,000 applications and putting in the gallery. All we need to just go to Intune and select that package. They are only updating for ourselves. Okay, these are all outdated now. Okay, so if you look at this, let me go ahead and zoom. Okay, oh, I mean, when of course we'll cover this in detail during our training. But if you actually look at this M365 Zero Trust Deployment Stack, everything that is in green color is devices. Okay, you see here, everything that is in everything that is in blue color is related to entra ID. Okay, and everything that is in this light yellowish color is a part of information protection and governance, which will definitely not covering. Okay, some aspects of it will be covering. Okay, when I again zoom, you see here, endpoint devices for Windows and 365, we create DLP policies. Okay, we create DLP policies either in Intune or Defender for Endpoint. Okay, and one thing that I really want to tell, for all these products to work, you need a Defender for Endpoint client to be active. So that is a key. That is the most important part of this entire training, right? And these are the 11th, these are the 13 steps that we'll probably do to achieve that. When you actually look at it, enroll devices into management, implement app protection policies, requirement health, okay, implement DLP policies 4, 5, 7, 9, 11. You see, manage endpoints with Intune and 365. Same thing, we will actually learn about zero trust identity and then MFA policies. Come down, we will still learn this pilot deploy defender for endpoint. That see, when I say endpoint, we only talk about clients. Okay, servers is a complete different thing, which I will not talk about. Okay, which is a different thing. Okay, so it's a massive subject. So again, part of it we are learning. Okay, we're not talking about this and we're not talking. This 11th step is a purely mostly an Office 365 will do. I'll give you introduction about this. Okay, this like no these 3 steps. You see, out of 3 or 4 steps, many people don't understand the importance of Intune, Azure AD, Entra AD, and Defender for Endpoint. Okay, so these are the main things that are needed for any organization to manage their entire M365. Now go ahead and imagine if you are an expert in any of these things, plus tomorrow after 1 or 2 years, you start learning more of Entra ID, more of purview, and more of compliance. Okay, so you are already learned 70 to 80% of M365 deployment and security. Just in case if you get a lucky project like Teams and Teams device management. Okay, it hardly takes one project for anyone to learn about something, right? So that is the reason why we have to look at a bigger picture and see how our career will shape, rather than saying that like, no, I know Intune, I know SCCM, I know this much. Okay, please ask me only in these questions. Okay, so it is mostly L1, L2, or 2, 3, 4, 5 years, not even 5, 2 to 3 years experience. Guys speak, right? That's how they speak. So if anyone have that 4, 5, 6 year experience, okay, so the whole training will talk, and I would personally encourage and develop everyone so that you guys get into a end user computing place where many security tools, many deployment tools, many end user computing tools actually design, and you consult something, you know something, you design. Okay, so it is not using a tool. If you get a console access, everyone knows English, they can read the console and do it. But what is it? Why do we have to do? All that is important. Okay, so as it said, right? So go ahead and start, you just understand this. Okay, so now you'll actually come to know. So coming to this picture of what exactly is this? This is what I was saying, right? Defender for identity, Defender for Office 365, and then Cloud Apps and Endpoint. You see this entire evaluate deploy for XDR, defense. XDR is some extended defense. Defender thing. So you see, these are 4 products. Tell them someone I have experience in these 4 products, which is Defender for XDR, and then Purview. You see this product, data privacy and data protection, and then Intune and Entra ID, and let me know if you don't get a job. Okay, why all that? Intune and Defender for Endpoint, you can just Google and browse and go to LinkedIn, go to Naukri, go to Times Jobs, wherever it is, you will actually get hundreds of jobs here. It only requires what you exactly need to put. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, so what is typically part of our training, or my training? Usually I do. Usually I say 20 hours, but it'll go, of course, it'll go beyond 20 hours. What if I'm sharing my right screen? So I conduct actually 3 different trainings. One is where I conduct L1 to L3 in Tune. Okay, so and then I do L3 to L4 in Tune only for people who really wants to get into deep understanding of L2 and they require it. Not, it's not about learning, whether they use it. Okay. So this is part of this particular course that we are talking about. Okay. So I say 20. None of my trainings are 20. It is usually 30, 28, 26. But we start off learning with the plan licensing. We talk about entra ID. Okay, a lot of entra ID, a lot of hybrid ID management, um, and then Vivo ID, bring their own devices, and then your entra ID applications. Okay, so registering the devices, joining the devices, hybrid IDs. Okay, Azure ID Connect. I mean, nowadays it's called entra ID Connect. And then how, lab setup is the most important. Okay, I would recommend everyone to have a lab. If someone already are working in a customer's environment, it's fine because it's not new for them. And for people who are completely new and they don't have a trial account, they don't have a test setup, I would actually ask them spend a lot of time during the course initially. Okay, so every initial learning is a struggle. Okay, and once you pass that struggling point, everyone will talk about Intune. Sorry, I mean easier. Okay. So second, as I told, we'll talk about enrolling of the devices. See, any device management has 3 different aspects. One is enrollment. How do you onboard the devices? You might have 1,000 devices, you might have 2,000 devices, you might have existing devices which are already used by users, and you are a brand new company, you're a new user, or you want to change from one product to another product. So far you've been using SCCM, suddenly you want to move from SCCM to Intune. How do you do it? And suddenly, if you want to move from hybrid AD join to only Azure AD, okay, all these strategies, okay. So these are the most important. If you go and talk to the company, 30% is struggling in this aspect of what to do for an existing devices, what to do from an old to new, how do I migrate, what are the real-time challenges that they face, okay. This is where most of the time is consuming, because this is the time is the confusing part. Once everyone knows how to onboard the devices, they are shown up in the console, and pushing policies is not a achievement at all, right? It is just tell me what policy you want. If it is available in Tune, we'll go ahead and do it, right? So that is how it is. We don't know, okay, right? Someone writes a script, you write a script, go to Google and get a script and deploy a script. So that is okay. Okay. So again, I have to tell something about, if it is mm, what do you say? Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I was coming back to the lab. Okay. So lab is important. The reason why lab is important, I always give this example. Okay. There are hundreds of videos in YouTube, and most of your companies are also planning to participate, planning to play. Okay. So, but all that is fine. But the only important thing is once you set up a lab and learn along with the training is when you learn a product. Okay. So you can, instead of some paying and watching a training session, you can actually go you watch YouTube videos. Okay. But someone is there to help you doing an interactive session. And when you have the lab, when you find challenges issuing a lab, then this is the only place, this is the only time you learn. Okay. So, and then if you don't do that, you'll never learn. Okay, that is for sure. You might have already attempted many times to learn any product, any technology, any subject, but unless you are really serious about it, you'll never learn. Okay, so please, people only are interested, join. Okay, it doesn't matter if I have 15 or 20. I don't want huge numbers. I want numbers who find value in the training. Okay, so again, Intune is classified and deployed when it comes to configuration policies, whether it's security or non-security products. So security products, I mean, security and non-security policies. Security policies are like, if it's a Defender settings, BitLocker settings, credential guard, application guard, all of these policies that have been can be pushed to a Windows endpoints, and for iOS and Apple and macOS also we can just push security and non-security policies. So that is a 30% of the role and job of Intune. Okay. You also can push applications. Okay. Standard applications, store applications, packaged applications. Similarly, the way we can actually do that in SCCM. Of course, SCCM has some advanced configurations that were needed, and that because see, SCCM is a product that has been developed for a long time, right? So it has been in the market for 20 years. People have invested, I mean, Microsoft has invested a lot, and it's a heavy base. I mean, it's a heavy product. But Intune is a lightweighted product. Complete. When I say light, light for you, but not light for the service in the back end, right? So the way it looks like is cloud-based service, and of course, we can only do few things there. There is hardly any limitation nowadays. Okay, even if it comes to applications. Okay. So you might find inconsistencies and lesser granularity in terms of reporting compared to SSCM, but it does the job. Okay, so it does the job because there are so many enterprises. Okay, so Accenture is the one classic example. You'll find hundreds of organizations now being completely moving to 100% cloud-based, and at least after COVID. After COVID, everyone wants to move to Entra ID joined and Intune managed. Okay, so we'll also talk about, as I was saying, complete security aspects of these. Okay, so we'll talk about Defender for Endpoint, complete onboarding, integration of Intune and Defender for Endpoint, what happens during the integration, okay, how our policy is deployed, what if you create an Intune, or if you create the policy in Defender for Endpoint, what is a sense agent, all of that we'll actually go and talk in the Defender for Endpoint. I'll just even give it just about how do you onboard Mac, how do you onboard Linux if it's needed, if someone is really interested, including iOS and Mac. Okay, so Defender for Endpoint is not just for Windows and Windows servers. Okay, people are buying even for iOS and Android and Mac OS and also for Linux. Okay, all that Defender is a product. It's just a security product. So Defender is one section. MAM. Okay, Intune MAM is every organization in the world is using MAM. Tell me 99%. Pick 100 organization, MAM is required, MAM is needed. Simply, okay, because everyone who is using Office 365, if they are using Office 365, which most companies are, and if they are enrolling devices with Android and iOS, and if they are into Office or Office mobiles, Teams, meetings, all of that, they are using MAM. Okay, so because you cannot take the screenshots, you'll not be able to copy paste any of the email documents, save it to your drive, save it to your local phone. All that is protected, right? And how do you protect? Using Intune MAM applications only. Okay, so we'll have a good 1 week. We can even spend time on resume preparations, interview tips. Okay, all of different various jobs, where to apply. Okay, and then how you can actually shape up your career things. Okay, later. So for people in the same training, same batch who are already no Intune, and if at all you want to attain L3 and L4 interview, these are the topics I usually cover in L3 and L4. It's a specific training only for few people around 10, 8, 9, 12, okay, where people who are really interested and who are looking for more advanced roles as a consult. There are two aspects, okay. If you want to learn a Intune product at the in-depth level, you don't need to, unless you're working in Microsoft, where you need to troubleshoot things, you don't need to. The way you actually implement Intune in a larger scale. Okay, when I say larger scale, how do you scale up Intune deployment and the challenges that you face when you are migrating from existing product to another product? So from deploying across locations, okay, different locations, different administration challenges, different languages, okay, so all those things. And if someone says, I want to leverage each and every feature within the Intune, it's not just about deploying apps, security policies, Windows, or enrollment, autopilot. I want to know more about it, like ServiceNow integration with Defender, Intune. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, so what is Azure Virtual Desktop? What are the differences between Windows 365 and AVD? Okay, so when do we use Windows 365? Because the entire Windows 365 is a part of Intune console, right? Intune is capable, Intune is, at least the Intune administrator is responsible for deploying Windows 365, deploying that cloud PC and deploying the configurations for cloud PC. Okay, so we'll talk about desktop analytics, EPM, and endpoint privilege management. So these are all advanced and additional capabilities of Intune that we are talking. Okay, how do we configure cloud PKI? How do we even configure a non-cloud PKI? If you have a SCCM, if you have CS certificates, if you have PKI implementation, how do you talk to security? What do you need from their CS servers? How do you create templates? How do you whitelist? I mean, how do you do CRLs? The certification revocation lists, all of that. Some general knowledge, some, general awareness, and some things that you need to do. A general, these classes, whenever I conduct once in 3 months, are most of interactive discussion type. Okay, so where people are already working in Intune like 4 or 5 years, and then they come. Okay. And there's other course that nowadays I'm not getting time to do it, where I cover all the 4 products which I told you, right? So the Defenders, the identity, Office, Cloud Apps, Endpoint in great detail, along with simulation, along with reporting, along with even querying the databases of all of these. Okay, not to a Sentinel level, but to at least again, that's a different product. All that. Okay, so but this is purely a course. Okay, so if someone is really interested and talk to me, talk to Amit, please go ahead. I will paste this number here. Contact Amit if someone is interested. I'll start answering the questions in the chat. If you have any questions in the chat, please go ahead and put any questions in the chat for now. And or if someone wants to talk to me, ask Amit about it. We'll probably start based on once we cross good numbers. And because I'm already handling 2 different batches right now, 80. Okay. So you can contact Amit. His number is 9540 662 806. Okay, it's an Indian number. So the country code is +91. Is Amit. So for course fee, when do we start? What is additional things that you require? Okay, so contact that, and let me open the chat and start answering the chat. Okay. So my name is Raj. You'll know more about me once we join the class, and if someone really needs to experience my experience, my work experience, my previous training experience where I work and all, contact Amit. He'll let him, he will let you know. And let me see the messages. Okay, so I am working in Ivanti. Okay, so that's fine. So will the help on the lab setup from the scratch? Yes. When I say 15 people join the lab, I cannot ask. I cannot go on hands-on with 15 different people. I'll show how to set up a lab. If someone needs to set up a lab, contact me first. We will use their example to set up the lab. Okay, but what is important is lab, because it's not about purchasing the license and trial license, right? It's about whether you have the devices or not. You need to have virtual machines. Okay, for Windows, you need to have at least a single virtual machine wherever you click. If you have a high configuration laptop like 16 GB or at least 8 GB, try to create a Windows 10 machine virtual machine. Or if you have a physical laptop of your own, personal own, okay, so then that is a thing that you can actually do. Okay. So for Android, iOS, most of you all already have. You can use your personal phones for testing. Okay, nothing will be a problem. No one will wipe or anything. Okay. So, but I always, out of 20 people in the batch, 10 people create labs. The rest of the 10 people, I give them my lab, okay? I give my lab access. And sometimes I even share a VM and create a Azure VM and give it to them. Because I want everyone to have their lab, okay? Because or else I find all nonsense questions, okay? I'll all silly questions, okay? This one. So I better give the lab so that their questions will make sense. Their understanding, their feeling.